Hello, everybody. I know this was a last minute thing, but I'm excited at least a few of you could join me here, and I'm sure more of you will come. This video is thanks to all my Kickstarter supporters who love corgis and ghosts and all things cozy mystery. So today I'm going to read for you out loud, Klaus and Marsha Meet a Ghost. This is actually the origin story for the entire Pride Street series. Thanks for joining me. Marsha was curled up on the big doggy bed in the living room, enjoying the shaft of spring sunlight pouring through the wood-cased windows one of her humans, Garrett, was so enamored of. Craftsman, he called the style when people asked, and sometimes even when they didn't. Marsha had no idea what it meant, but the whole house was that way, with heavy wood contrasting with varied paints, and all the soft furnishings Marsha wasn't supposed to get on, but which Garrett and John both not so secretly allowed. Garrett and John loved the house and made sure it was comfortable for their two corgi companions. Marsha didn't care about built-ins and wood casements, but loved the sunlight through the windows, the soft bed she shared with Klaus, and the green tiled fireplace that the men lit on cold nights. She also loved the tidy backyard with just enough grass to romp on and enough flowers and herbs and such for Marsha and Klaus to sniff. Sometimes the old house got a corgi in trouble. Garrett was always clucking over nail marks on the precious hardwood floors, as if there was a dang thing the dogs could do about it. They couldn't exactly trim their own nails now, could they? And was it a corgi's fault that the floors were original and over 100 years old? How old was that even? The floors creaked anyway. Sometimes they moaned. Her other human, John, didn't care as much about the nail marks, but was scrupulous about wiping paws when Klaus and Martha came back from walkies. Marsha didn't mind that, and besides, the humans had to abide by the same rules, even taking off their shoes at the door. Garrett said it was part of John's culture. Marsha didn't know what culture meant, except no shoes worn in the house and a shelf in the built-in dining room cases that John called his altar, where he lit incense and left oranges sometimes. Marsha was glad she didn't need to wear shoes, though she was fond of chewing on them, a habit she tried to curb because it meant no treats. Marsha loved treats. Marsha! Klaus's soft woof sounded urgent, but it was coming from upstairs, and Marsha really did not want to abandon her spot in the sun. She yawned and wiggled her fuzzy butt into an even more comfortable position. Marsha! What? Marsha woofed back. There was no answer. The corgi sighed, rose, and shook her little body and trotted up the stairs. Marsha hated stairs, especially going down. At least Garrett had put a carpet runner on the treacherous things, giving her nails something to grip as she pulled herself upward. Marsha trotted down the long, creaky hallway, following the path of the carpet. She passed the shut door of John's office, listening for the telltale tap, tap, tapping of the man's fingers on the keys. One of the rules of the house was no interrupting John while he was writing. Marsha and Klaus did their best to comply, mostly. She nosed her way toward the open doorway at the end of the hall. The large dog bed that Klaus and Marsha shared at night sat beneath another big wood-framed window, which was open to crack, causing the pale curtains to swell and billow. The high human bed was made up neatly with a long blue-striped comforter and soft pillows. Marsha looked around. She was certain that Klaus's voice had come from this room, but her friend was nowhere to be seen. The closet door was open. The wood door was never open, except when Garrett and John were in the room getting dressed. Klaus and Marsha were not supposed to go into the closet, ever. There were yummy slippers to chew and soft scarves and bathrobes to pull to the floor and make beds out of. There was even a feather boa that Klaus had gotten tangled in once. He'd run through the house, barking as Garrett chased him and John had laughed. Klaus? Marsha woofed. The only answer was the sound of claws scrabbling, followed by a thump and a whine. Marsha crossed the polished wood floors, then onto the patterned carpet that was much nicer to walk on. She peered into the open closet at the neat rows of shoes and boots on racks, and the hanging clothes in a variety of colors. The place was a wonderland of soft fabric and soft leather that would feel good to her teeth. Marsha resisted the urge to chew and poked between the shoe racks and the place where John's long dresses hung. He called the dresses drag, which was another human thing Marsha didn't understand. Still no Klaus. Another thump came from deep inside the space, which was large enough for a dozen corgis to have a snooze. As a matter of fact, Marsha had slept in there before the no closet rule, even getting shut inside at night. She'd had to scratch at the door when she needed to tinkle. She nosed her way deeper into the space, sniffing for information. There was Garrett's cologne, John's soap, leather, shoe polish, all ordinary closet smells, and something strange. Marsha lifted her nose to sniff again. She smelled wind and rain and soil, spilled beer, and something unfamiliar. It smelled like burning paper and the spices Garrett used when cooking something festive in the wintertime. These were not closet smells. Not at all. The hairs on the ruff of Marsha's neck stood on end. She wasn't sure she liked this smell. Klaus? In here! Her friend's voice sounded strange, muffled. She moved forward slowly, inching her way across the carpet runner, following Klaus's voice. Except the closer she got to where his voice was, the stronger the strange smells were. Klaus? I don't like this very much. Can't you come out? There was another thump and a muffled bark, as if Klaus was hurt. Screwing up her courage, Marsha quickened her steps, her stubby legs pushing her all the way to the back of the long closet. And there, behind the winter coats, was a small wood door. And it was open. Had it always been there? Klaus? There was no answer. Marsha really didn't want to go through that door, into the strange, rainy day, spicy, burning smell space. But Klaus needed her. She barreled through the little door, barking her fool head off, bracing herself for attack. Nothing was there. Marsha peered through the gloom, her own shadow blocking some of the light from the closet. She turned her head and saw a battered cardboard box, some strewn papers, something that looked like a leather vest and a hat, and a tipped-over metal vase with some dust around it. And next to that was Klaus. Klaus, are you asleep? No answer. She hurried across the bare wood floors, trampling through thick dust that felt grainy against her paws. Some got up her nose. She sneezed right on Klaus's head. He didn't move. Klaus? She pushed him with her nose. Nothing. She listened. He was breathing. That was good. Marsha licked his face, and he moaned softly. Marsha? As Klaus woofed, a man appeared. Well, not exactly a man, but a man-shaped mist rising from the grainy dust. Klaus! Klaus, we have to get out of here. Well, what? Klaus! The mist bent and looked right at Marsha, growing more solid by the second. She could see that his eyes were blue. He wore what looked like the leather vest, and the matching low leather cap with the front brim topped his head. Marsha snapped her jaws at the apparition and shoved at Klaus. Klaus, you have to wake up, now! She barked fiercely at the misty man as her friend slowly shook his head. As soon as Klaus was on his feet, she shoved her snout into his furry backside. Klaus, run! They raced back through the small doorway, back into the closet, then out into the bedroom. Once Klaus was safely out, she braced her paws in front of the open closet door and barked her head off. The misty man was undeterred. He sort of walked, sort of floated toward her, tall leather boots with thick soles making not a sound. Boots like that? The old floors should be protesting. The weird, burnt spice and rain smell increased. Marsha barked. Klaus shoved his furry shoulder next to hers and barked too. Shoulder to shoulder, they faced the man who was still moving toward them. Marsha barked a warning. The figure crouched, held out a hand, touched her nose. She yelped. The hand was cold as ice. Marsha backed up, growling and snapping as Klaus barked, his body shaking with fear and anger. Intruder! Intruder! Marsha heard a muffled curse from down the hallway and the door opening. John was coming. Good. John would save them. Klaus stopped barking, but a low, rumbling growl emerged from his proud chest. The strange, wavering figure stood up and smiled at them. Why was he smiling? And why was he wearing those clothes? Along with the leather vest, hat, and boots, he wore a heavy chain necklace, and his bare chest looked kind of fuzzy. Not as fuzzy as Klaus, but more than Garrett or John when they were naked. And he had muscles, like some humans did, just not her humans. Where this man was hard and muscled, Garrett was soft around the middle, and John was thin. Marsha liked her humans just the way they were. The slap of slippers in the hallway grew closer. Then John stood in the doorway, his straight black hair sticking up around his head like it did when he worked sometimes. He wore jeans and a Disco Never Died t-shirt beneath a black hooded sweatshirt. Marsha liked that sweatshirt. It was soft. What in the world is going on in here? And why are there paw prints? Guys, what the heck? Marsha ran to John, who looked around the room dismayed. He lifted his chunky, green-framed glasses and rubbed his eyes like he was tired. Klaus Nomi and Marsha P. Johnson, what in the world is going on? I was right in the middle of a scene and don't have time for all of this. John waved his arms around at the mess. He didn't sound too happy. Wait till he found out about the weird half-there man. What are you two barking at? And what are you tracking all over the floor? Garrett is going to be very upset. It's a ghost, Klaus barked. So that's what the man was. Marsha had heard of ghosts before. John wrote books about them. Of course the strange man was a ghost. Yes, a ghost, a ghost. Marsha joined the barking. John sighed. What has gotten into you? I don't understand. Do you need to go out? That's what the doggy door in the kitchen is for. You both know that. He bent down and swiped a finger into the grainy dust. Wait, are these ashes? We haven't had a fire for 2 months. Marsha woofed. John was not thinking. The fireplace was downstairs. A ghost! A ghost! Klaus and Marsha danced and pranced around John's ankles, barking excitedly, the grainy dust rising in puffs around their little paws. Look, he's there, Klaus barked, in the corner. The ghost was peering at a photo grouping on the wall in the far corner of the bedroom. As Marsha watched, he walked on in those big boots, moving throughout the space, fingers lightly touching things on top of the big wood dresser. Marsha couldn't see the top of the dresser from this angle, but knew what was up there. A hairbrush, Garrett's grandmother's silver hand mirror, some jewelry that John and Garrett only wore when they were going out, as they put it. Though that made no sense to Marsha because they went out all the time. They went on walks through the neighborhood and to the grocery store and the library where Klaus and Marsha had to sit outside, tied to a post. They didn't wear the fancy jewelry those times at all, but humans who knew what they were on about half the time. Both dogs pointed their noses toward the ghost, then looked up at John, then back at the ghost, up at John, back at the ghost. Wait, is something there? Oh my gosh, something feels weird in here, and it smells weird too. That's what we're trying to tell you, Klaus barked. Yes, Klaus found a ghost, Marsha barked. John looked around the room, then held his hands out, as if touching the air. You guys, there's nothing there. He waved his hands some more. The ghost looked startled as John's hands touched his chest, but he didn't move out of the way. But it is kind of cold right here, John muttered to himself. Look in the closet, Klaus barked, as Marsha nudged John toward the open door. Oh no, John groaned, stepping into the closet. This place is a mess. Honey, what's happening? Are the dogs okay? That was Garrett's voice calling up the stairs. Up here, John called over his shoulder. Better brace yourself. It's not pretty. As Garrett creaked his way up the stairs and down the hallway, the ghost stopped in front of Marsha. She looked up at him and blinked. Hello, cute little dog. My name is Adam. Who are you? The ghost didn't bark and didn't talk out loud like John or Garrett did, but Marsha could hear him all the same. Her ears twitched and she tilted her head, trying to figure it out. You can hear me inside your head, and you can talk to me the same way. At least, I think that's what's happening. I just woke up, so I'm not totally sure. I'm Marsha, and that's Klaus. The man is John. Garrett stepped into the bedroom, looking around in horror. His brown hair fell in a neat wave across his forehead, and he wore his work clothes, dark trousers, a button-down shirt, and a vest whose buttons strained a bit around his nice round belly. Like John, he wore glasses, but his were silver, shining against his pale skin and magnifying his soft brown eyes. What's all the racket? And oh my gosh, what's all this mess? Sweetie, are you in the closet? There's a ghost, Marsha barked. Garrett bent and gave her an absent-minded pat. I'll deal with you two later. They can't see me, Adam said, at least not yet. But you're right here, Klaus woofed. What is all this stuff? Garrett said from deep inside the closet. They must have found the little room. Both men emerged from the walk-in closet, carrying some of the papers and the box with the boa and leather clothes. Looks like a box filled with gay Portland history, John replied, setting the box on the floor. Unfortunately, it also looks as if these two knocked over someone's ashes. Did you even know that little space was back there? Garrett shrugged. I guess so. The building inspector mentioned it before we bought the house, but I'd forgotten about it. What's that? John had an old-looking piece of paper in his hands and was frowning down at it. Looks like old newspapers and flyers from the 1980s, and pamphlets. Garrett leaned against his husband, reading over his shoulder. I want to see, Marsha woofed. Me too, Klaus said. Shh, quiet you two. Garrett's voice was soft, so Marsha knew he wasn't mad. There are flyers for excuse me. There are flyers for parties and organizing actions and news articles. Honey, John said, looking at his partner's face, I think our furry friends got into a box of gay Portland history. There's stuff about ACT up here. And look at this. He held up a glossy photo of a man in tall leather boots, jeans, a leather vest, and matching hat. He wore a shirt beneath the vest, though, not like he was now. Adam Klein, John read. Those are the clothes in the box, Garrett replied. That's me, Adam said in Marsha's head. I was so proud that day. I got an award for community service. That was right after I got arrested for throwing a pie in the mayor's face. He deserved it. Do you think those ashes? John asked, thin, dark eyebrows raised. You're the horror and suspense writer, and therefore the expert on dead people here, not me, Garrett replied, kissing John's temple. But maybe this Adam is around somewhere. What else would these two rapscallions be fussing at? If it was just this box, they might have chewed on things, but it wouldn't have set off barking, right? I think you're right, but I don't know how I feel about an actual ghost in our house. Marsha and Klaus stood still, waiting for what would happen next. John carefully placed the papers back in the box, then took Garrett's hand. They both turned slowly, looking around the room. I thought I smelled something unfamiliar, John said. Garrett sniffed the air. You're right. Clove cigarettes. Wow, I haven't smelled those in decades. Yeah, maybe it really is a ghost. Marcia and Klaus looked up at Adam, panting happily. Do you think they're looking at him now? Garrett asked. I do, John said. Good humans. Sometimes they were pretty smart. Well, Adam, Garrett said, then cleared his throat. You're welcome in our home. Sorry our dogs knocked over your urn. I'm not, Klaus woofed. Adam, will you play with us when Garrett is gone and John is in his office working? Marcia asked. I'd be happy to, Adam replied. I always loved dogs. He sounded wistful, but happy. Marcia wagged her stubby tail and grinned up at the ghost. I'm glad you're here too, Adam. And corgis are the best kind of dogs. Then she turned to Klaus and bumped him with her nose. We have a new friend, Klaus. New friend, new friend, new friend, Klaus barked. They scampered and leapt around the dusty floor and carpet. John and Garrett laughed. Well, Adam, I hope you like corgis, John said. Because they sure are excited about you, Garrett finished. Marcia looked at her new friend and then at the two men who had made such a nice home for her and Klaus. She trotted over to Garrett and bumped him with her shoulder. Garrett bent down to scratch her head and Klaus's too. All right, you two. Now we have to clean up this mess, and it's bath time for you both. Marcia and Klaus gave a couple of happy woofs. Bath time, yay! Klaus woofed. Do ghosts take baths? Marcia asked. We don't, Adam replied, but I'm happy to wait here and play with you later. Marcia sighed in contentment. Much as she loved her naps, having a ghost to play with was going to make life much more interesting. And for a corgi, sometimes interesting was good. And that concludes the story. Thank you so much for joining me. It's funny, I said at the beginning that this was the origin story for the entire Pride Street series. And you'll notice as you read the books that I've made some changes. Things happen. For one thing, Garrett's glasses are tortoiseshell now. Maybe he changed them out. And Klaus and Marsha both have tails. I noticed they don't in this short story, which is kind of funny. The subconscious remembers some things and not others. But the most important thing is Adam lives with John and Garrett and the dogs, and Adam helps solve the mysteries. Mostly it's Garrett and Marsha solving the mysteries, but Adam always provides a crucial piece of information that helps him crack the case. So I hope you enjoyed the story. I hope you enjoy the whole series, and thanks for watching, and thanks for supporting my Kickstarter. See you online.